Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special Today's Homeowner podcast where we're going to dig in a little deeper on the details of Chelsea's ranch revival and Chelsea Lipford Wolf. My daughter is with us today to talk all about the details.
That's right. We're updating our family home. We've owned it for exactly 1 year now, and all of the changes we've done and all of the changes that are coming up are just so exciting.
And you know, a ranch-style house is one of the most common housing styles in the United States, so we thought it would be really good to do a series of different projects that Chelsea's doing, hence the name Chelsea's Ranch Revival. Reviving this ranch-style home that was built in, 1956?
That's right.
Yeah, 1956, so essentially 65 years old, and it's really like a time capsule. I mean, you know, a lot of times you have a home of that age and people want to put their own stamp on it, or they tear this down, or they put an addition on that really doesn't fit well. That's why I always like to work on a home like this that has really has most of its original shape and color and bones and everything else in it.
I know there are a lot of people that are scared by a house like that, but that's the perfect kind of house for you, or for you, Dad, and for me, is we get to put our own stamp on it and get to fix it just the way we like instead of inheriting someone else's fixes.
And as Chelsea said, you know, she purchased it right at a year ago. So the first step was to get it livable. You know, it's very rare that anybody can have two houses, live in one while you're working on the other. It's usually, you know, for economic reasons, and plus you just want to get in that house once you buy it. So Chelsea and the crew and her husband and team kind of did those first steps. And Chelsea, has been a while, so I know we removed a lot of wallpaper to put a little paint on. That certainly cleaned it up, freshened it up a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. We did that in the two bathrooms. It just brought, just livened up and modernized the spaces for little money and quick results. But we also pulled up old carpet
out
of the bedrooms.
That was fun. And you think about the evolution of a home and how, of course, the original beautiful hardwood floors, they're the 3-inch oak floors, red oak. I mean, they're just absolutely, beautiful. But now, of course, later on, we'll be refinishing all of those floors. But right now, they're not bad. And when you live in a home with very little carpet, when you get into a home with carpet, it just feels dusty. It feels like stuff's hiding under your feet.
And it was. Once we pulled up the carpet, we saw lots of, I think the carpet pad had been breaking down over the years, and there was lots of residue under there. And we still haven't refinished the hardwood floors, but it's so nice just to have that hard surface, decorate with rugs, and get used to the space before we pick out a stain color and refinish all the floors.
Well, but that's a good point in general, is living in a house a little bit before you start knocking down walls. And when you're looking at a house, considering to buy a house, there's all kinds of ideas that pop into your mind. But things change when you get into the house. Have many things changed in terms of your perception of things that you are going to do now that you've lived there that maybe you didn't consider once you moved in?
Ooh, that's a good question.
And when someone says that, hey, that's a good question, that's a stalling technique.
Oh, for sure. I'm stalling. I mean, unrelated to like moving in, we had kind of planned to do an addition at some point and turn this extra den room into a 4th bedroom, make it a master suite. And the plans for that have changed. We planned to do it, but the way we're doing it has changed. So that's something that is playing into our hardwood floor renovation for sure, and the refinishing of the floors.
Well, you've already checked that off the list and moved on, so you hadn't thought about that for a while. But just again, as a bit of a recap, so the Chelsea Ranch Revival will be a series of 5, 6, or 7 shows that'll stretch out over about a year and a half. The second part of that series just aired recently on Today's Homeowner Television, and you can go to todayshomeowner.com/ranch revival to find out all of the other details and get a lot of extra information and also a lot going on with your Instagram in terms of what's happening on almost a day-to-day basis.
Yes, I love sharing on there at Checking In with Chelsea, and you can go to some of my highlight bubbles and see where I've been doing some updates to our dining room, and then jumping ahead to our hall bathroom renovation. I've been sharing a lot there, so that will be a television episode soon, and we'll talk about that on the next episode of the podcast.
So just recently we did air the show on the exterior upgrades and all of the things that took place outside, which is a fairly sizable amount of work. one of the first things that we looked at, and Chelsea, of course, Chelsea already had to make a lot of decisions. And one is when you have an established yard, a lot of times it'll be a bit overgrown, and you have to decide which bushes to go and which bushes to leave. And I'm not a big fan of just going and just wiping out everything unless it was really neglected, but there was a lot of nice bushes that you had in there, and I think the decision you ultimately made by removing some of the real crowded bushes and some of them that, of course, a lot of it was just kind of boring. It was just like the boxwoods all the way around the house, and to be able to eliminate some of those and then eventually replace them with some a little more color, a little more variety, really ended up being a good move. But that's a tough decision on which ones go and which ones stay.
Yeah, a lot of people actually make it an easy decision because they plant plants too close to the house. So, when the plants are small, it seems like a good place to put them, but then they grow and they're touching your house. That's never a good idea. So that's like an automatic elimination when you're looking at what plants to remove. Then there was some that were like half, like the weeds had taken over, like the viney weeds. And it's like, well, let's just eliminate that and start fresh. And it's so much nicer to be able to do that and to get a little bit of interest. Plants of different heights and different shapes just make your yard look more intentional.
And then after we did that, we also used an excavator to remove some of the front sidewalk was in kind of bad shape, and also any of those the trees and some of the shrubs that we wanted to really eliminate. Once we cut them down, of course, we had small stump and roots to get out. We wanted to get all of that out. So the little mini excavator, which is a very inexpensive, easy to use little piece of machinery, we were able to eliminate all of that. Then brought in a tractor with a box blade that allowed us to grade the whole yard. We weren't trying to save any of the grass because I think it was only about a 5% coverage of grass and 90%
grass there, unfortunately.
coverage of other green leafy material called weeds. So we were able to kind of eliminate that, kind of grade it a little bit to where it really ended up looking a lot better now than it did, because it just didn't the shape and the slope of the yard allowed that water to kind of run toward the house a little more than necessary.
Right, and there were some big humps and bumps that you wouldn't have been able to eliminate unless you graded the whole yard. So it's just, sometimes you just have to start with a blank slate.
That's right. So we got it to that point and kind of stopped on the landscaping a little bit and then focused back on the house. Now, there was an architectural feature here that I guess people liked way back then, but it basically had the windows in the front of the house, and the windows, let's say, were 5 feet in height, but then they had about 2.5 feet below that just had a wood panel. And I've seen that on other houses, never understood why. And, Chelsea, I know that you looked at putting cedar shakes in there, painting it a different color, doing a lot of things, but ultimately covering that over with the bricks for a more traditional look in the front. I think overall that was one of the more positive, and wasn't that expensive to just to fill in that area. Now, I might mention, though, this is a painted brick home, so putting in the same size and texture brick is all we had to do. Thank goodness we didn't have to match the color of a brick.
Right, match the color of the brick and the color of the mortar. Like, that's virtually impossible.
That's right.
I was a little nervous about getting rid of an architectural feature. Like, is this part of the charm and the character of the house? I didn't want it to just erase all of that and tear those out, but it ended up just looking so much more modern without being like over the top modern. To eliminate that, brick it in. Now that the whole house has been painted, it looks like it's always supposed to be like that.
And speaking of which, as soon as the bricks were filled in, had a little bit of drying time, we primed the bricks, and then it was ready to paint. Now, making a decision on the color of the exterior of your family home is not easy for anybody, but we always encourage people to get 2 or 3 swatches of paint and paint them on the side, whether it's inside or outside, painting them on the wall and look at them for a few days. Well, when you put 14 swatches on the side of a wall, it makes it a little bit harder. You were having a little trouble on that decision there. Plus, your neighbors were contributing a little bit to the decision making,
Oh
right?
yeah, all the neighbors walking in the neighborhood would let me know which one was their favorite. And putting too many paint swatches next to each other, the colors start playing off of each other, and so you're not sure if you like it by itself or just because it's compared to this other color. But ultimately, the color we ended up with. Looks great on the house. Gotten lots of compliments from the TV episode on it, which is always fun. Not that I needed other people's approval to pick the paint color because I love it for myself. But yeah, it was worth the effort to get the right color for our house. And I felt added pressure because we're on a corner lot.
Yeah.
So people aren't just seeing the front; they're seeing the side. They're seeing a lot of this
A
paint
lot of
color
house,
in
yeah.
one view. So.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's done.
Well, it turned out very, very well. And then two other things that you did, which I thought were great. The shutters and the color that you have for that worked
Right.
out very well, and used actual operative shutter hardware, which is always good, even though you're not planning on using the shutters for storm protection. That turned out very, very well. And then, again, the color that you painted that, I introduced a third color in there. Then the gables, you really hit a home run on the gable.
Yes, I knew I wanted a real wood door, light colored, lots of glass, and I got exactly what I wanted and used that as the starting point and the checks and balances for every other decision that I made on the outside of our house.
They look very, very good. And another important decision, that front door of the house is like kind of the nose of the face of the house. So you really want it to be very welcoming. And you definitely got that out of the doors that you have, especially with the stain and everything that you did for that. One of the big things, and a lot of what we're talking about here is about looks, is really about making the curb appeal really elevated. But there's another big component to this particular part of the renovation that not only did that, but also is going to save you a lot of money in the long run, save you a lot of maintenance, and that's the awesome windows you put in there. Another fairly easy decision, because we've worked with our friends at JELD-WEN windows for a long, long time. I put JELD-WEN windows in my new house, and that was pretty easy, especially, I know you looked at some other windows, and then you go back and look at the JELD-WEN vinyl replacement windows, and all of a sudden, they're without a doubt a great window.
Yeah, not only were the windows that we had before just not adequate at all, once we painted the outside and did everything else on the outside, it still didn't look that great with those old windows in place. So getting the white vinyl put into the same opening, if you've never seen replacement window process, it is fascinating.
It is, yeah.
They just remove your old windows, cut them out of wherever they're installed, and then they just slide the new one in and attach it. Inside, we hardly had any caulk.
Little bit of touch up of caulk, and that was it. Outside, we had just a little bit of touch up on the bricks, but that was pretty amazing and a great process. And the tilt sashes.
Right.
And then the argon gas there
Yes.
for the, increased energy efficiency.
Well-
and also you mentioned that, the road that you're on can get a little loud there when those kids are
Right.
coming home from school.
Yeah, that and all the, I guess, the dads leaving in the morning to go to work at 6:30 with their big trucks. It's nice to have more insulation from the vinyl windows, keeping the noise down inside the house. But vinyl, that means they're going to be low maintenance.
That's true. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we're not going to have to touch up paint on them or anything. And the argon gas that you mentioned makes them energy efficient because it has that gas between the two panes. So it's protecting us on the inside from the outside element.
And some lower quality vinyl windows are really hard to open and close.
Yeah.
I mean, they just, you shouldn't have to, be a weightlifter.
Break a
in
sweat.
Order, yeah, exactly. In order to open those. And definitely you've gotten a lot of use out of that when the temperature was a little more mild. You were able to open those and get some fresh air in there.
Yeah, and keep the bugs out.
So that worked out great. As we continued on the exterior, we got to the final grading, and then sod time. Lots and lots of sod, which is very gratifying, but also that'll make you break out the Bengay late in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's a lot of hard manual labor to get your sod down, but it is one of those home improvement projects where you get instant gratification, or as Dad likes to say, an instant lawn.
Yeah,
because
that's right.
you spread seed, you're not going to be able to see the benefits of your hard work for a few weeks. But with instant lawn, when you're laying down pieces of sod, you can enjoy your yard right away.
That's right. It was perfect. And used a little bit of water there. A little bit of your water bill kind of went up a little bit there, and but it was worth it to establish that. Got
Yes.
a fantastic looking lawn. The kids are going to love that. Of course, the plants came in right after that. Decided on using pine straw for mulch, which is very important to choke out those weeds as well as to keep that moisture in there. And the arrival area, I love this. There was no place that you could pull up to the front of the house without just parking on the street, and being on the curb is not a good idea. But cut in just a little area enough for 2 cars, and then I really like the small gravel like you use. It's a gray gravel. It still will pack fairly well, but it just, I don't know, seems like, pavers would have been too formal, concrete would have been too formal, asphalt just wouldn't have looked right. This just seems to be appropriate for the house.
Yes, I know. You really like the arrival area because that was your idea. But that's okay. I'll take it because it adds curb appeal to the house, but it's also practical because now guests have a place to park. And then the gravel, I think because it's small pieces, you get a little bit of texture, whereas concrete is just like a white slate. And it's inexpensive, and it's just very practical, and it's worked out great so far.
And drainage-wise, it helps on drainage.
Oh, yeah.
And you had it at your previous house, so you know how to maintain it, which requires very little. By the way, a little Chelsea tip there. If you have grass that's growing up through a gravel driveway like that, don't worry about the chemicals. Just get the teapot.
Yes.
Water, boiling water in a teapot, and you just put a little of that on any weeds that start popping up. They die immediately, and you never have to worry about it again.
Yeah, it will kill good plants too, though.
Yeah,
so don't burn your plants.
Don't burn the plants. And then another thing, really, that pretty much wraps up the whole exterior. But one other thing I thought was a good decision on your part is it had a really small garage that tucked under the house, and just outside that, later on when the house was built, had a 2-car carport there, which is sufficient for the 2 cars. So instead of replacing the garage door, which had to have been original, the thing was rusting and looked just really dangerous, Chelsea decided to come up with this great design for a double wood door that she also stained and sealed, and that allows the kids to have access in there for their bikes and so forth, and you still have all of that great storage underneath.
Yeah, that's right. Would you call those shed doors? Like, that's what I always like as a visual for people. It's just like 2 doors on a shed, and we keep one stationary and pinned down, and the other one is the one that we mainly use, so that the kids can get in there and get their bikes without us having to come down and prop open the old rusty garage door.
And then installed a combination lock on it in addition to a deadbolt. So you've got security, you have access, everything. It really worked out very well. And the boards on it, being treated wood, will last, long, long time. And they were put on in a diagonal. So it gives just a little bit of style, a little bit of, instead of just plain, mundane barn-type doors, this has a much nicer look to it. So I hope we've been able to paint you a nice picture that you'll be able to see. First of all, you got to see the before and after. And again, you can find out all about it at today'shomeowner.com/ranch revival. And next on the list, we're going to finish up the hall bathroom. That will be airing in a few weeks. So you'll want to check out the Today's Homeowner Facebook page or today'shomeowner.com to keep up with the exact air date of that. That is a big transformation too. And also, we include in there a very unique way of enlarging an existing hall bathroom without building on. So there's a few little very good utilization of all of the spaces there. Chelsea, I think we've covered a pretty good job here. I know that you're excited about this plateau in the overall renovation, and you still have a lot of decisions to make before we can say this one's complete.
Yeah, that's right. That'll be this time next year, maybe.
That's right. It'll take a little while, just like it does anybody else that's doing a renovation. And Chelsea and I really appreciate you spending some time with us here on this special Today's Homeowner podcast. And if you have any questions, feel free to send them to us at today'shomeowner.com/ask or today'shomeowner.com/podcast. I'm Danny Lipford, along with my daughter, Chelsea Lipford Wolf. Thanks again for listening to this special Today's Homeowner podcast.